We preview the Ravens Week 15 matchup with the Green Bay Packers with a very special guest next here on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we've returned here with another episode of Locked On Ravens. I am your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire. On Location is the official hospitality partner of the NFL. This is the only place to score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl ticket and experience package. Visit onlocationexp.com/SB56 for more information or search Super Bowl On Location. We returned here. It is another Purple Friday here on Locked On Ravens, and that means here with me today to break down the Ravens Week 14 loss to the Cleveland Browns and preview the Ravens Week 15 game against the Green Bay Packers is former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver and Super Bowl champion Qadry Ismail. And Q, the Ravens, 2 straight losses to division rivals. They now stand at 8-5, still on top of the AFC North, but it doesn't feel like that. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Kevin. And again, you look at this wacky NFL season, there's seems to be some major headline each and every week, some game that comes down to the wire that's unexpected. And here we are. Again, the Ravens are still atop the AFC North, as you said, and looking forward to a matchup where it looks like it might be a mismatch.
Yeah, especially with all the COVID cases going on in the NFL right now. You have the Ravens who have been impacted by that as well. The Packers also, as they placed a start offensive lineman on the COVID list yesterday. But there's been a lot of things to talk about for this team for a while, Q, and it's been the injuries. It's been some of the illness that the Ravens have gone through with Lamar Jackson, the close games. And the Ravens go through another close game in Week 14 against Cleveland, losing 24-22. It was really just a situation of too little too late as the team was down 24-6 at halftime. They ended up coming back and losing 24-22, but there are some storylines to talk about on the offensive side of the ball. And obviously one of the big ones is the injury to Lamar Jackson and the play of Tyler Huntley in this one, who, all things considered, I thought impressed coming in the first half. Really didn't know. He was kind of thrust into action. Jackson goes down, is carted to the locker room, deemed questionable, then ruled out. And Huntley comes in, throws for 270 yards and a touchdown, does lose 2 fumbles. But how impressed were you with his performance in Week 14? Because this wasn't a situation where, like in Week 11 against Chicago, he was prepared for that a couple hours before. This was, he was thrown to the action and said, you know what, go do your thing.
I think stealing the line from John Harbaugh is appropriate. When you are the backup, you're one play away to go out there and play. So you got to literally be ready. If you stay ready, you will be ready, and you'll be able to go out there and perform. What you saw from Tyler Huntley was a guy I think is showing he belongs in the NFL. If it is a backup role, so be it. I'm competent. I can go out there and play effectively. I appreciated the fact that he even admitted, look, I needed to settle in and not turn the ball over, not put my team in bad situations. And you could see where he started getting into his rhythm. And again, the way he was able to play pitch and catch with some of his receivers on man-to-man situations, especially for Rashad Bateman. I loved how, he was smart with the ball when it came to, putting them in a great position to have Justin Tucker kick a field goal and just continue to kick field goals and continue to make it. It was an all-around game that you would have thought going into it. Plus, when Lamar went down, oh boy, this is going to be a rat kill. But again, this is a division game and a division opponent. And again, it comes down to a few plays here or there. Ravens came up short, but for Tyler Huntley, what a performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And another guy who impressed me was Rashad Bateman. Bateman is a receiver who has done really good things with the ball in his hands, but the opportunities have been a little inconsistent. Really was involved over his first couple weeks. Then only 1 target against Pittsburgh in Week 13, but comes back, has 8 targets, 7 receptions, 103 yards, and should have had his first career NFL touchdown. But for some reason, they don't call it. It was clearly a score, in my opinion. But how impressed were you with Bateman? Because you talk about staying ready and being ready, and Bateman talked a bit about that during his press conference earlier in the week, where, when he's handling that fluctuating target share, he has to be ready for those opportunities, and he certainly showed that, I think, in Week 14.
Yeah, it's interesting when Lamar went down, Tyler stepped in, and I think one thing in working, the NFL, you have your scout team looks, and certain guys got to go out there and they got to play. And I know Rashad Bateman is a rookie, so there are going to be guys on the practice squad that'll take the majority of the snaps, but there's every now and then he'll get in and he's going with Tyler Huntley. So I think that there's some, catching opportunity of chemistry that Tyler kind of gets a feel of what Rashad is all about. When they were in man-to-man and needed to make a play, the fact that Tyler was getting him the ball, how he got him the ball, was remarkable. The deep ball, plus he came back and had the 4th and 6. It just, to me, showed just great chemistry, but it also showed a tremendous talent level that I'm anxious to see how he continually grows. He reminds me so much of Anquan Bolden with this great catch radius. Anquan wasn't the fastest guy, but man, did he just keep making plays and big plays. And every time you thought you had him, you didn't. I think that's what it looks like when I see Rashad Bateman play.
Well, if Rashad Bateman turns into an Anquan Bolden for this team, I think many people will be very happy considering the contributions he made, especially in that Super Bowl run. I mean, it was contested catch after contested catch, just these incredible plays by him. So, yeah, I've been impressed with Bateman so far. I know historically, John Harbaugh, especially over the last couple of seasons, and the Ravens organization, the rookie playing time has been a bit of a question mark. You can go back to the J.K. Dobbins and, his play at the beginning of his rookie season. But when you earn those snaps, when you earn those targets, and Bateman, I think, has certainly done that, the Ravens do reward you. And I think he's certainly earning those. Definitely. But Q, it seems like we talk about an offensive or defensive play that causes a bit of controversy over the airwaves for the next week when the Ravens play. We had the cover 0 blitz against Chicago, the 2-point conversion in week 13 against Pittsburgh, where there's another 2-point conversion that caused some controversy in week 14 as the Ravens scored a touchdown. They were down by 9 pending the extra point attempt, and there was about 9 minutes left in the game. Now, there were 2 decisions John Harbaugh could make in that situation. It was either kick the extra point, make it a 1-possession game, put it to 8 points. You still have to convert a 2-point conversion at that point, or you could go for the 2-point conversion there. If you make it, it's down to 7. If you miss it, it's still a 2-possession game. Now, the Ravens end up going for 2. They miss it once again, so they're down by 2 scores. And Harbaugh after the game said, look, you want to know where you are as soon as possible. If you go down, you score with 2 minutes left, and you're down by 8 after kicking the extra point earlier, if you miss that 2-point conversion, the game is over. And the Ravens were still in the situation to win the game with the ball. So it was really no harm, no foul at the end of the day. But Q, did you agree with John Harbaugh's decision to, instead of surefire, make it a 1-possession game with arguably the greatest kicker of all time, he goes for 2, and ultimately they end up missing it?
Why do we keep having these conversations? I don't understand. I feel like the hard choice in the moment, it's easy from the 10,000 seat view, and you can sit back and be in your comfort zone. And if it works, I knew he should have gone for it. If it doesn't work, see, I don't think so. And one of those I don't think so's was Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher on a CBS show was saying, look, I think anytime you have an opportunity to kick the extra point with that much time left, that close of a game, you do. Then you make it a 1-score game, and it's game on. To John Harbaugh's point, the analytics that he looks at, it's a lot different because there's so much time left. I got what he was saying. I understood that for Bill Cowher, he's not saying that he's old school in a negative way, but he just has a different thought process compared to what you would see when it comes to the analytics of what John sees. And I don't think either way you could go wrong unless you don't make it or you don't win the game. But as far as his team, as far as the way they are and they function, I think giving them enough time and going for 2 early like that, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, and, Q, we did have the same conversation last week where it was, look, this Ravens team is in the mindset of, look, we're going to win the game. And honestly, if they had made that 2-point conversion and scored again and they're only down 1, I think they might go for 2 again to try to win the game. So it's those types of plays where the Ravens are an aggressive football team. They're on defense, they're going to blitz. On offense, they're going to trust their players. So I understand both sides of it, where it's like, all right, you want to make it a 1-possession game. I understand. Like, that's the surefire thing. Do you have Justin Tucker trust him? But at the same time, there are situations where the Ravens, they just have to be better flat out on 2-point conversions. The play call wasn't really great. The execution wasn't really great. And they're one of the worst 2-point conversion teams in the NFL. Lamar Jackson has been one of the worst 2-point conversion quarterbacks. So that's an area where they have to improve. And it is hindsight, right? If they make it, it's, Harbaugh's a genius. And if he doesn't make it, it's all, why did they do that? They should have made it a 1-possession game. But Q, I am interested to hear your thoughts on the defense, because as I talked about earlier, they allowed 24 points in the first half. They allowed 0 in the second half. Did you see anything from them in terms of adjustments or increased level of play that you were impressed with? Or was this more of a situation to you where Cleveland was trying to run the clock out and trying to milk a little bit of clock, so they were not really trying to necessarily put points on the board in bunches?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, the fact that you didn't have any pass interference calls after the first half, I thought if you look at it, I still don't get it. What is pass interference when you look at the way Westry was guarding Landry and he is turning around and Landry's pulling him into him? So he hooked him and pulled him. The official told Westry that his explanation was, you didn't turn your head around and you made contact with him first. See, and I think that's CYA, and you're trying to – every official gets graded each week. And the officials with the highest grades, they get an opportunity to play in the or not play, but officiate the playoffs. And then obviously, even from there, you get a chance to work the Super Bowl. So that's a really amazing thing and opportunity. But one of the things that I look at, you could also get graded in a negative way. And in that negative grade, that can have an effect on you. And if you do have that, that can, work in your removal as an official. Regardless of what it is, you made a mistake, and you made a costly one that I think, from a integrity of the game standpoint, it was in the Browns' favor. But for the Ravens, that's just good, strong, solid coverage. They made up for that, and by making up for that, that's where I look at it as like, all right, you made up for it. You didn't have any more miscommunications, because there was another play later on in the first half where it went down a seam, and both corners didn't communicate well either. So the communication got cleaned up. No more pass interference calls. And I think the Ravens played the way they should have, which was strong, solid run defense, met by the fact they didn't give up any big plays.
Yeah, and you're talking, Hugh, about this official saying Westry didn't turn his head around, when he clearly, in the video, you see he does, and he plays the ball, and you mentioned he just hooks him into him, and
he didn't turn around before contact, and that's where you and I are like, no, come on, that's not right. He in the flow of the game turns the whole 9 yards. That's nonsense.
Right, and there are definitely situations where it's like, all right, this player is guarding the ball with his head to the back of the ball, but this is like a textbook, right? This is how you want to play a ball if you're a defensive back, because pass interference, even the slightest grab, the slightest hold, the slightest interference with the receiver, it can draw a flag. And I think for Westry, he did everything right, and the call was just flat out wrong at the end of the day. Well, we'll head into our first break. When we get back, we'll be flipping and talking about the Ravens Week 15 matchup with the Green Bay Packers, so stay tuned for that, and we'll be right back. Super Bowl 56 at SoFi is less than 100 days away and on location. The official hospitality partner of the NFL is the only place to score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl ticket and experience package. Select your exact season, choose from elite experiences featuring an exclusive pregame celebration with NFL legends, 5-star LA hotels, and food by the great Wolfgang Puck. Visit onlocationxp.com/SB56 for more information, or search Super Bowl on location. That's onlocationxp.com/SB56 or search Super Bowl on location. No one plays daily fantasy sports to lose. Winning feels so much better, but traditional fantasy sports are a long-term losing proposition because you never know who or what you're up against. Stat Hero is the first of its kind daily fantasy sports platform where it's you versus the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup, winner take all. And the crazy part of Stat Hero actually shows you their lineups before you play, and you handpick the team you want to face one-on-one. It's a never before seen innovation of fantasy sports, and it's a betting hybrid. Stat Hero players clocking odds that are over 4 times better because you don't have to compete against thousands of experts or unknowns. Stat Hero puts you in control of your fate. Stat Hero head-to-head is what daily fantasy should be, one-on-one. So sign up free right now at stathero.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon. Use promo code LOCKEDON for 100% deposit match. stathero.com/lockedon. Promo code LOCKEDON. Terms and conditions apply. We return here, our second segment of this Locked On Ravens Friday edition. Kevin Ostraker, your host. Still here with Qadry Ismail. And Qadry, this game, this Green Bay game in Week 15 is one that's going to be a challenge for sure. And especially if Lamar Jackson cannot play. Jackson obviously left the game in Cleveland with the ankle injury and has not practiced so far this week. We don't know Friday's status at this point. But if you're the Ravens, if you can put out an injured Lamar Jackson, let's say 80%, 75% in this game, or a healthy Tyler Huntley, or you could rest Lamar Jackson this week to make sure he's 100% for next week against Cincinnati, which in my opinion is the bigger game. Are you playing Lamar Jackson if you're the Ravens this week?
If he's less than 80%, I'm not. If we feel we have a chance to win the division by beating the Bengals and the Steelers, then I'm going to gamble and say, look, don't put in Lamar, put in Tyler Huntley. Tyler is more than capable, showing himself capable, so why not? Why not just go out there and let him continue to mature and do what he needs to do as a backup quarterback should. But at the same time, you get a chance to have your star quarterback not only for this game, but for every game going forward, be ready. Because the playoffs, if you do beat Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, you best believe you're going to need Lamar Jackson to go into the playoffs if you expect to advance.
Yeah, and even with Lamar Jackson out, Huntley in. Huntley, as we talked about a bit in that first segment, he's proven that he is capable of providing competent quarterback play, which is what you want out of any backup. And he also has a similar skill set to Lamar Jackson, which when you talk about when Jackson came in to replace Joe Flacco in 2018, those two players are very opposite in terms of some of the things that they can do. So Lamar Jackson going 6-1 in a Joe Flacco offense was very impressive. But now you have a player in Tyler Huntley who has a couple of NFL games under his belt where he's won one of them, where he started a full game and almost let it come back in the other. So if you're looking at this perspective, Q, are you confident if Tyler Huntley is the one to suit up that he can lead this offense to a win with all the injuries they've gone through, with how the offensive line is played, and with how Huntley himself has performed as well?
Yeah, I think, being on the road is an extremely difficult situation. So his 2 times that he came in has been on the road because of, Lamar Jackson. Actually, 3 times because he was even in the playoffs last season against the Bills. So, playing on the road as a young quarterback is extremely difficult. I think this, if you know that Tyler has been playing all week, practicing all week, again, that just puts you in a position. I know Tuesday was their day off, but Wednesday and Thursday practices, he was in there. Why not? Why not? I don't think that there's any advantage to having Lamar Jackson not fully ready, being out there. And, especially if you're looking at him as a franchise guy, long-term, the whole 9, nah, I'm good. Let me have Lamar when we need him the most. Not in this game.
Yeah, and here's I kind of talked about this with Ronnie Stanley a little bit when he got I guess, re-injured or wasn't 100% in week one. The thing with putting out an injured player on the field, it limits two things. It's bad for two reasons. One, you're not getting the full skill set of the player. First of all, you know that he's out there and he's not performing at the level he's performing at, and that hurts the team on the field because, for example, with Stanley, he just did not look right in week one against Las Vegas, and it showed. You had Yannick Ngakoue and Max Crosby and these guys just beating him badly, and it hurt the outcome of the game for them. And two, it risks re-injury, and that's the bigger part of this because you don't want to put Lamar Jackson out there in a situation where you almost feel pressured to win the game. So you're like, all right, you're 60%. We're going to have to put you out there even though you're not ready. And then all of a sudden it could lead to a re-injury or an even more serious injury. And that's just a situation where if you understand that you have Huntley, who you talked about at Q, he's been practicing with the ones all week. So that helps his readiness and preparedness for this game. I think if Jackson isn't 100% or not close to it, I think that you definitely rest them and just live to see next week and still have a chance with Huntley to win the game in week 15. But I'm interested to hear your opinion on this, Q, the deflating plays for this offense. We've talked about the slow starts before, but I feel like they've actually gotten off to decent starts. The only issue is that they have these deflating plays in the middle of their drives, especially early in the game. So they'll be driving down the field in the first quarter and there will be a holding call on Alejandro Villanueva or Tyree Phillips or whoever, and that will set them back. So on a 10-yard run, you get a first down, you're all of a sudden back at 1st and 20. Or there's a sack where Lamar Jackson holds the ball for too long. And so you kind of put yourself out of it early when you're actually using some momentum-based plays to get into a game. And even against Pittsburgh, the Ravens were kicking field goals in the red zone. And I feel like that's also deflating for an offense. So how much of an impact, you, whether it's from your experience or just what you've noticed from this team in particular, how deflating can those be and how can it impact the rest of the game?
Yeah, I know it's deflating. I mean, guys talk about it, and I know that when you're used to scoring, averaging 33 points a game or 27 points a game, that means you're putting up some serious numbers. You're marching down the field. You're imposing your will. All the practice and film study that you've been doing, saying this team likes to do this coverage or that or whatever, and then all of a sudden you look and you're like, wow, this is the look. This is what we're going to do. Oh, we execute it. Keep on going. There's no holding calls. There's no offsides. There's no illegal procedure. What we are doing is working, and I think that's something that has been a real disappointment for. I know this Ravens ball club period to go this many weeks and to start off that slow and not have, the momentum in their favor, it's just unacceptable. And I think that, their pride and needing to go out there and play up to their potential, their capabilities, it's critical. It's everything. But I think at the same time, you're also looking at, guys not necessarily pointing fingers. So the optimist in me is saying, yeah, there's hope because you could see where they're taking pride in saying this is unacceptable, but they're not necessarily bickering amongst one another. You do see the same competitive want to and fight. So at some point in time, it's when the faucet's going to reopen. Hopefully it's this week against a good Packers team.
Yeah, hopefully it will be because not scoring a first quarter touchdown since week 6 is almost unheard of, especially because it is now week 15. And it's about, as I've said, 115 minutes consecutively of first quarter action where they just have not been able to put the ball in the end zone and even just getting themselves into better second and third down situations. I know we've talked about this before, Q, where, on first down, you have a 1-yard run, you're in 2nd and 9, and then there's a sack, you're in 3rd and 16. It's just those 3rd and long plays when I think a lot of people have gotten so used to the power rush offense where you can pick up 8 yards on first down with Gus Edwards and then another 5 on second with J.K. Dobbins, just continue that down the field and score. It's a lot different this season because of all the injuries and just their slow starts overall. So it'll be big for them this week, as we've talked about every week here, to get off to a fast start for this Ravens team. We'll head into our final break, though. When we get back, we'll talk about the Ravens defense and if they can slow down Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and company. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be back soon. BetOnline has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As well as season continues to march to the playoffs, BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the sports action this season. It's our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. So wait, take advantage of all the amazing offers as well before the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. This holiday season, grab the bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar in Built Bar. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. There are so many flavors you'll have a hard time choosing. Built Bar gives you the extra fuel you need to bust down the mall doors and battle all the holiday shoppers. People are so passionate about their favorite flavors, so tell Santa to throw a few of those Built Bars in those stockings. You can also dip your Built Bar into a piping hot cup of cocoa. Let it melt a little and give your beverage a bit of that Built Bar flavor. If you like some of the marshmallow treats around the holidays, you need to get your hands on the Built Bar Puffs. They're light, fluffy, and marshmallowy through and through. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off of your order. We are back here, our final segment of this Pro Friday Locked On Ravens edition. Kevin Allstreicher still here with Qadry Ismail. And Q, the Ravens defense has its hands full this week. There's no doubt about it. Aaron Rodgers is coming to town. Davante Adams is coming to town. Those are the two players when you think of the Packers offense that you look to first. You obviously have other talents like Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and a couple others. So this is a high-flying team, a high-flying offense, whereas you have a Ravens defense that has showed some fight, showed some guts, and has really played well over these past 5 weeks. But with Chuck Clark going on the COVID list yesterday, they are now down their entire projected starting secondary for the 2021 season with Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, Deshaun Elliott, and now Clark. And with Adams coming to town, it's going to be a big week for Anthony Averett to step up in a big way. Are you confident in this Ravens team shutting down Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams? And if you're not, how do you think that the team can do it if they can?
Yeah, so anybody is beatable. You can get got, as they would say. You're a competitor. You're in the National Football League. This isn't like you're going to just say, woe is me, I can't guard this guy if you're Anthony Averett. However, there are guys and then there are guys. And Davante Adams is one of those guys. He is an amazing route runner. The sixth sense that he has with Aaron Rodgers is that of legend. The way in which they are on the same page, they're in sync. They see the hole in the defense and know how to just sit it down or accelerate or do whatever it needs to be to get the ball and make plays. He's so far and away targeted more than any other receiver out there. I think for Aaron Jones, I think for him and the screen game, the moment you think you got things settled in, they come back and the screen game is so productive. So with that daunting task, it's about discipline. It's about, I would double cover him. I would have safety help over the top, make somebody else beat me. Do the old Bill Belichick. I will do whatever I need to do to stop you and whoever else. They're going to get the ball, and if they beat us, then all right, but you're not going to. Not today. So, yeah, you look at Davante and just see an amazing talent. Got to stop him. Got to have safety help, and that safety better be communicating because Chuck Clark, I know he is definitely a big-time communicator. But that's it. That's the game. That's the ebb and flow, when it comes to what you're faced. And this is a huge test for the defensive front because if you can get after Aaron Rodgers, and I mean, there's times where guys sack him. There's times when he's been pressured and he has to throw it out of the pocket, frustrate him, frustrate him and know that, yeah, you're going to hold out. He's going to get his because he's Aaron Rodgers, but don't let him kill you. And that's the big thing. How can you eliminate the big play? That's going to be the huge challenge for this ball club.
Yeah, and hopefully making the Packers offense one-dimensional. If you're able to take away the run game, when the Green Bay run game hasn't been phenomenal this year, they have talent, Jones and A.J. Dillon, but if they can take that away and force more resources to the passing game because you're not worried about, all right, is this going to be a run? Is this going to be a pass? If you put them in passing situations, you can devote more resources. I think that's what hopefully they should do. And their run defense, Baltimore's, has been very, very good this season. They're a top 5 rush defense team. But the Ravens, they don't have bodies in the secondary right now, especially with all the guys out. You have Chuck Clark now potentially out. We don't know the extent of that right now with him being on the COVID list. And one of those guys is Tony Jefferson on the practice squad right now. And he came back quite literally this week. He hasn't been with the team for a while. He's familiar. He was with Baltimore for a good 3 years, but they could need him this week. It's that bad for them in the secondary where they might have to call up a guy like Blake Countess, who's been there for a couple weeks. Robert Jackson got protected once again this week on the practice squad. I mean, this is a big week for them. So without their entire starting secondary, you mentioned safety help over the top. Are you putting trust in a guy like Tony Jefferson this week if Baltimore has to call him up? Is that a move that you would make if you're the Ravens because they just don't have anybody else at this point?
Well, if you just say they don't have, and now they do got, come on, bro. If you're healthy and you passed all the tests, then hallelujah, come on. I just see Tony as a guy from a locker room standpoint. He's a high energy. He connects well with other guys. This is a good chance for him to be another communicator, another set of eyes, for the outside guys and making sure you're on the same page. Bring him in. Bring him. Move him on up. They said that they worked him out, that he looked good as far as his, workout to see what level of shape and all that. I have no problem with him being on the active roster.
Yeah, and Jefferson and Clark have similar skill sets, and they're not exactly the same. Clark is better in coverage. Jefferson in his time in Baltimore was not amazing in coverage, but he's a thumper in the run game. He's a physical player and can make his presence known. And if he's that player for them in Week 15 against Green Bay, if he is in fact called up, then I could see him making a big impact in just less than a week after signing with the Ravens, which would be quite the storyline in itself. But plenty of storylines in this Green Bay game, but obviously the final score is one of the big ones and just your overall predictions for it. Is this a game that you think the Ravens can pull out? We've seen them do crazy things this season. This is a game where they are underdogs. Do you think they can stop their 2-game losing skid, or is this a game where, the injuries, some of the COVID players, you just see it as a third straight loss?
Yeah, I am not very optimistic, and I am a glass half full kind of a guy. Lamar Jackson has been out the week of practice. Tyler Huntley has shown himself more than capable, but I think this is a Green Bay team that has a tremendous amount of talent, especially under center. Your secondary is decimated. He loves slinging that rock. He's going to sling it out there to a guy that is arguably, if not the top, he is top 3. Score-wise, I'm saying it's 35-24. Tyler Huntley, Rashad Bateman, those guys look good. Hollywood Brown's going to be productive. Mark Andrews will get some grooves and make some plays. Therefore, they put up 24 points. However, too much Green Bay, and it's 35-24.
Yeah, I'm going 31-23 Green Bay, so kind of in that same wheelhouse there. I think, injuries, they happen all across the league. This is not just a Ravens issue, but the Ravens are, in my opinion, the most injured team in the league based off of both pure numbers and talent lost. People point to Tennessee, but as I've said before, they have guys walking through that door again. Derrick Henry's going to walk through that door again. A.J. Brown is probably going to walk through that door again. The Ravens don't have these guys coming back. They'll get guys back from the COVID list, hopefully, but they're not getting Marcus Peters through that door. They're not getting J.K. Dobbins through that door. So they're working with what they're working with. And people say, oh, don't use the injury excuse. Well, what do you want me to do? Because it's just, at this point, it's not an excuse. It's reality. And it's unfortunate that, if this Ravens team was at least a tiny bit healthier, you have Marlon Humphrey for this game, you have a Marcus Peters for this game, the outcome, I think, could be different. But at this stage, I just think that the injuries, they put a cap on any team. And for the Ravens, the cap has been very tight this season. They've had to work around it. And this game, even if they lose, is not the be-all, end-all of their season. It's not the Ravens lose to the Packers and the season's over for them. They still have 2 very important divisional games. If they drop this one, obviously a loss hurts. You want to win every single week. But at the end of the day, I think Baltimore does lose this one. I think they put up a fight, but just, again, not enough in this one. But Q, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for once again hopping on here, talking some Ravens football. And hopefully, again, we're not talking about a loss next week. Hopefully, the Ravens pull out the impossible, pull out the extraordinary, and show us a great game and hopefully win in week 15.
I like your thinking, Kevin. Appreciate you having me on as always. And yeah, let's look forward to them going up against the Bengals. But go Pack Go so far, unfortunately, this week.
Yeah, hopefully they'll be able to pull some magic out of their hat, pull the rabbit out of the hat in week 15. But we'll see whether Lamar Jackson's under center or whether it's Tyler Huntley. But that's all I have for you today. We'll take a 2-day break. When we get back here on Monday, we'll dive into everything that happened in that Ravens and Packers matchup. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you on Monday.